Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I am talking to filmmaker Adam Linkenhelt, and we are on Zoom. Hey, Adam.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. All right, so Adam is here on the Discover Indie Film podcast because you are a returning champion. That's what I like to say. You had a film in the very first film invasion Los Angeles. Passports in 2016 played at the inaugural Film Invasion LA. And then last year, the most recent, the 9th edition of Film Invasion LA, you had the film The Unreliables, where you actually took home the Filmmakers Award for Outstanding Screenplay that you co-wrote with Jen Robyn. Oh, he's got the... All right, well, we are on Zoom and we have video, so I just got to see the trophy, which that warms my heart. That's so cool. And it is very cool because it's got your name and your wife's name on the same trophy. Because you guys co-wrote, the two of you co-wrote the film. Excellent film. If people want to learn about that film and about you and your career, listen to the podcast before this one. Kick-ass conversation we had that goes from Ojai to the Philippines, back to LA, through a documentary, all kinds of stuff. Very cool conversation. Very cool to learn that you're I think it's fair to call you a Renaissance person. You're kind of ticking a lot of boxes and covering a lot of ground. But deep down, you're a storyteller. And you make excellent films.
Thank you. I try.
And now we get to find out your inspirations, because people should listen to the podcast before this one to learn about you. In this podcast, what we learn about you is what kind of films you do like and maybe don't, but more about the do. But because the Discover Indie Forum questions, I totally blew that, but I won't even repeat it. The 4 questions for this podcast are: name 3 films that you love, just 3 favorite films. Name a film that you consider underrated. Name a film you consider overrated. And then name something lesser known that people should seek out. It's really just a fun excuse to talk about movies. I have a uppity friend who's a professional session drummer, and he goes on for years he's been going on Facebook. He always wants to start fights about music. Like, he'll be like, Neil Peart of Rush is the most overrated drummer of all time. Debate me. And so he kind of inspired me to ask similar questions about film.
Yeah, I'm stoked that you just have this. And one of the questions, like, I felt like a weight from it, like an importance of like what I answered, you know?
Well, it's funny because I've tried to kind of, like, the reason like, I don't want people to feel like you have to name the 3 best films you've ever seen, or like the 3, like if you had a top 10, I want numbers 1, 2, and 3, just 3 favorites, you know, like they can be silly, they whatever you want. So you want to just jump into your favorites? Yeah.
So I'd say, and I often say this is my favorite film of all time, but it's called Incendie, I think. It looks like Incendies. It's an early Denis Villeneuve film, who directed, like Dune and Prisoners and Blade Runner. It's so amazing. It's like these twins, when their mom dies, they get this mission from the notary that's like, you have to go back to her home country and find out about her life and find out who your brother and your dad are, and then you'll know the mystery. And it's such a good mystery. And it's got like a Radiohead soundtrack. And every time I watch it, I'm like, what am I doing? This film does it all.
It's funny because I've only seen the films he's done since working in English. Mm-hmm. And many people tell me I've got to go to watch the films he did in French.
It's amazing. It's such a good, like, engaging mystery, which is, I don't know, kind of my favorite thing in movies. All right, should I keep going?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wish I could say, oh, I love that film, but all I've got is.
But I love to recommend it because some people haven't seen it, and I thought about putting it as my, film people overlook or film people, but it's honestly probably my favorite film of all time. The Radiohead soundtrack really helps.
I gotta say, I'm with you. I'm a Radiohead devotee myself.
You're gonna see this movie. You're gonna, by the first frame and the music, you'll be captivated. Jaws. Jaws is perfect. Jaws has never not been perfect. Jaws always works. I've loved Jaws since I was a kid. I rewatch it. I still love it. I love everything about it, from the way it story tells to, as you watch it and filmmaking, its odd structure of like, then they go on a boat for 40 minutes. Like, it's actually, what was awesome was they played it at, it was like, was it movie and food? What's it called? Cinema, Street Food Cinema, I think, in LA played it. And it was like outdoors by Malibu Lake. And there were a bunch of food trucks. And it was the first time my wife, girlfriend at the time, had seen it. And it was like just a few years ago. And she loved it. And it was cool to witness her watching Jaws like through her eyes for the first time. And she's like, yeah, the part of the boat, whatever. She's like, the politics and the acting and the characters, that's what's so deep about it. So it just works on so many levels. It never fails. Even though the shark can, as you get older, kind of look kind of fake, it still works. It's just amazing.
Totally works. And isn't it it's just so special that like you loved it, like you saw it, you were really young the first time, Helen, right? Like 5 or 6 or something?
Probably, yeah, 5, 6,
7, 8 maybe, but like it's when you watch it as an adult, there's so much more to it, and like there's a lot of comedy in there.
Yeah.
As well as the like we were Weidman, they like generally like there's politics, there's a much bigger, like it's a way more complete film. Like it's not just like the best horror film ever made. Like there's so much to it.
Yeah. It's my parents would tell me they went and saw it in theaters because and like went and jumped in the ocean afterwards. You know what I mean? Because they were like dating at the time or whatever. And like that's just cool to know, that like from then to now it like entertains and is.
Oh my God. When I was a kid, I would be scared in a swimming pool. I would be in a swimming pool and I'd think, is there a shark behind me? Like that film got to me for years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I think, one of Lost in Translation is just, I think, a perfect film, a masterpiece. And just like, I still haven't found a movie quite like it, It's a movie. It's a kind of movie I would love to make in a lot of ways. It's quiet too, but it's also like, I don't know, it makes you feel this melancholy involved with travel and aging and all these things. And I just love it. I mean, there's a lot of other movies I thought about throwing on the list, but I think Lost in Translation, I literally have a poster up there right there, but it's just, I don't know. The end, the end of it, the end shot when he's leaving Tokyo, because I lived in Asia for like 3 years, when I remember being in the cab on my way out and the flood of emotions I was feeling, it just reminds me of that moment when he's like leaving and he's looking at the buildings and what it all meant to him. So I think I connect to it in that kind of like a little bit of an expat way as well.
Yeah, you have extra insight to that. I mean, it's a great film, and it's really cool. It is. I mean, I'm one of those people who sees it as a bit of a performance piece. Like the performances are just so outstanding and so natural, and I am one of those people who, you might not be surprised to hear this, I just adore that it's about an older man and a younger woman having a friendship. That there's no romance to it at all. I really appreciate that because, I'm one of those people who hated When Harry Met Sally because I think the whole idea that men and women can't be friends is fucking bullshit. Fuck that.
Yeah.
I despise that movie for saying that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lost in Translation totally is just a whole different world from that.
I think also there's, like the tone of it, it's like a great acting piece, but the tone. And when I think about editing and how, you could have edited that film differently and it never would have had that, like, just that lovely tone that like the way it lingers and the way it like feels like you're there experiencing these things in a peaceful state or and sometimes an excited state, like all that, the feeling of being somewhere else, I think it captures very well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hey, that brings us to question number 2, which is a film that you feel is underrated.
I think the film Wages of Fear, which is I think it's like 1930s or 40s. Um, it's by this French filmmaker who I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. I don't want to blank on his name.
And 1953 version.
Yeah, yeah.
It's I looked it up. Henri Georges Clouzot.
Yeah, Henry Georges Clouzot. He's like, I mean, some have called him like a French Hitchcock, but like, I think Wages of Fear is a masterpiece, and it's another one of these kind of expat films where it's like, it's for expats in some kind of downtrodden third world country who get this kind of almost suicide mission, and it's so desperate and so like the end of the line for them, and it's just the tension in the film is just perfect because they're basically driving these trucks full of dynamite basically through the wilderness, and they have to not bounce too much, and there's tension between the drivers, and it's just I think it's one of the great thrillers. There's kind of a remake of it called Sorcerer that William Friedkin did. I think that film is underrated as well.
People have mentioned Sorcerer to me in the last month. Someone said that was their lesser known to seek out, and
I'd agree.
Yeah, there was also a French remake of it last year.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to watch the new remake. I feel I'm too
The
attached.
first is perfect. Why bother?
Yeah. But the Sorcerer is great, and it does a lot. It's so different from Wages of Fear that like I think that they can both be completely enjoyed in their own ways. And Sorcerer has Roy Scheider from Jaws and French Connection and all that jazz, who's awesome. So I almost put Sorcerer as mine, but I also think not enough people see Wages of Fear.
Yeah, not enough people watch foreign films. I mean, a lot of people do who are into film.
Right.
But I confess it's always a hard sell for me in my house when I'm like, let's watch this film, and the wife or kid are like, subtitles? And it's always a hard sell.
Yeah, I always think it's going to be tough when I always going. I'm like, oh, am I going to be able to pay attention as much? And for me, once it goes for a few minutes, it's like I forget that I'm reading.
Couple minutes in, it's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I'm starting to feel like sometimes I want dubbing now. It's interesting. Really? Well, because actually you might have experienced this with the Anchorage Film Festival. Some people out of inclusivity they burn in captions no matter what now for the hearing impaired.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time appreciating the film when my eyes keep wanting to read those words.
Yeah, I hate reading films when it's English.
Yeah.
I don't like subtitles when I know what they're saying because it's
same here. I'll actually hold a pillow above the bottom couple inches of the TV so that I'll stop reading because it really does distract me from the performance and the cinematography from the filmmaking because I don't know, I'm drawn to words. I don't know why.
Have you heard of this weird craze fad where people from like my generation watch the TV in English with subtitles on? It's like a thing.
No,
it's a thing. Apparently, I don't, but it's a thing. I don't know. That's very surprising.
So they just put on the closed captions because they want the words. It's not because they're listening to music or doing something else.
Probably because people are somewhat, ADD, and they also have their phone in front of them so they can peek up. And some people say it's because of the way stuff is mixed, but I just think it's weird.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't work for me at all. Amusingly, sometimes my British, if the British accents are too tough, we might temporarily put it on just to get a key line.
Yeah.
I'm a little better at I don't know. All right. Well, hey, excellent. Now we can move on. You're such a nice person that I think I might give you my disclaimer for the overrated question.
Okay.
Because overrated does not mean it's bad. Overrated means that, for example, I'll share one of mine, which is I'm a huge Coen Brothers fan. And then they win Best Picture for No Country for Old Men over There Will Be Blood. And I'm like, wait a minute. No Country for Old Men isn't even in my top 5 of Coen Brothers films. It's a great film, but it's not one of my favorite Coen Brothers. So how come they have an Oscar statuette for that one instead of Miller's Crossing, which I think is just better in every way? But then also it beat There Will Be Blood, which I thought was just like, woo. So it's like, so I would call that overrated, but it's an amazing film. I'm just saying that the public reaction to it or the industry reaction to it is overrated. So
You know what I almost was going to claim as my underrated was Inside Llewellyn Davis, which I think does not get its fair credit as one of the best, definitely most emotional Coen Brothers film that exists, I think.
that's an interesting one. That is a good one. It's yeah, about the folk music one. God bless them for making that one.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I was gonna say one. Oh, I should say it.
Well, feel free to say. I mean, I just assumed I fucked up because I was like, well, you might go, all film is of quality, and I'm not going to say any. A lot of people are like, rightfully so. They're like, it's so hard to make a film that there's no such thing as an overrated film. And what I try to redirect is, we're not saying bad. We're saying it didn't deserve all those awards. That filmmaker, their film before that was better in every way.
And maybe I won't say this one is bad but I love Ryan Gosling. I love Margot Robbie. I think Greta Gerwig is a great director. I couldn't have been more bored watching Barbie and thought it was like unfunny. I went in so excited and I was like, I didn't chuckle. Maybe there's one chuckle. I think I had one chuckle, but that's my overrated. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about Barbie.
I'm with you.
I'm glad people went.
It's funny because I enjoy. Well, I think. By the way, I think Margot Robbie did not get the praise she deserved because I think that film, excuse me, was. I have a lot of problems with it that probably came from the fact that Mattel and the studio also had to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's amazing. I don't think it holds up. I'm one of those sci-fi fantasy nerds that like, I love when you create a universe, but if you create a universe, you got to be fucking loyal to the rules of the universe. And Barbie creates a universe and then breaks all its own rules just for entertainment purposes. And I don't know, I have a hard time with that. Like, I have a hard time that like we got the magical world and the real world, but now all of a sudden there's a ton of magic in the real world. And you know what I mean? Like, whatever. So, and I think Margot Robbie was amazing at holding the whole thing together. And then they give the dude an Oscar and not her. Pisses me off. But I do think Barbie was overrated. If I do think I'm with you. I think, but I also praise it for. I mean, it's just a miracle that film got made.
Totally, and great for the film industry, and I think it's cool that Greta Gerwig is such a like her. She worked in indie films so much, and like I started watching some of her like early like stuff with like Joe Swanberg and stuff that they like co-directed together even, and like she's just been in it, and I think I'm glad she made it to where she's at and can deal with the biggest budgets and make the most money. I just didn't like Barbie that much.
At the risk of sounding like the most virtue signaling woke motherfucker who ever lived, I actually did say, I think I said to to my daughter afterwards. I'm like, look, so many mediocre films directed by men have made $1 billion. I am so happy a mediocre film made by a woman made $1 billion. And I realize that's identity politics, and I should treat women. But I'm so glad that a mediocre film directed by a woman made $1 billion.
Yeah.
That just makes me happy, even if the film's not for me.
Yeah, and I think it's by a great director, you know, who like got more power, and it's with cool actors. So
yeah, and she did. And again, somehow they walked into a movie studio with an idea for like the world's most famous toy.
yeah, and I think what Barbie did for Oppenheimer is just awesome because it made this like super serious adult film that makes no sense that should be such a blockbuster. I think it helped it be such a blockbuster, and I think that's awesome.
It was special, and it was very cool, and whatever. I'm gonna hop on my soapbox and virtue signal one more time, which was I have heard people criticize the speech that America Ferrera gives. It makes me cry when she talked about how hard it was to be a mom and and work. I just think that's a beautiful. If all I get out of that film is that moment, I'm happy because it totally worked for me. Amusingly, my daughter was like, "Oh, it gets preachy." I'm like, "That's because you didn't grow up in the sexist world I grew up in." Anyway, all right, I'll stop trying to sound like a feminist.
I hope I don't get too much hate for that, but we'll see.
I don't think you get any hate, thankfully. Last question is a lesser known film that people should seek out.
So this one gave me, you know, this is the one I thought about a long time because I was like, oh, like this might actually cause someone to watch a film that they have never seen, you know? And I was trying to think of what's actually lesser known. I landed on so I got the Wong Kar-wai box set a few years back, and Chungking Express is one of my favorite films of all time. I think it's one of the most. Do you like it? You know it? And that's not my one.
My age had missed out on a lot of the Asian cinema, so I'm not too familiar with too many of his films.
But Chungking Express has this aliveness that I just love, and a lot of people know it, so that's not my one. But an earlier one, I think it's the one he made just one or two before that, is called Days of Being Wild. And I really, really enjoyed it. And it was one of those, like, you get a box set and you haven't seen all the films on it. And it was just such a treat to find this, like, the visceralness of, like, Wong Kar-wai with the way he pairs image with music in a way you wouldn't expect, with, like, really kind of, I don't know, emotive narrator. But anyways, I really love Days of Being Wild, and I think that's one people should seek out if they like Wong Kar-wai. If they like Chungking Express, I think Days of Being Wild is like has some similarities to it. It's not quite, I don't think it's as good, but it's like it has that special kind of, I don't know, 90s Asian cinema, that artourness that is just really special.
So if I wanted to get a little cooler, should I watch Chungking first and then Days of Being Wild? Chungking, or they're so different. Better. I should just watch both.
Way better. I think Chungking is way better, and I think it might get you into his stuff, and then maybe Days of Being Wild could be a nice, you know, dessert.
All right, sounds good. Because honestly, it is very funny. Like my generation, we got, you know, we had all the cinema from England and France, and like, you know, the amazing stuff coming out of Japan was sort of and Hong Kong was missed on us. And then Korean cinema comes along, and like I talk to these young folk who like name all this amazing Korean cinema, and I'm like, dude, you're talking about a whole body of work from a whole culture that how am I going to catch up? I got 1,600 films a year to watch for the festivals.
Yeah, no, there's no catching up, right? Like that's what's been hard this year is just with the kid with having a kid and being like, oh, I can't go to the movies very much. There's so much out.
It is
Wait,
so different. And
what are some
you're about 3 years, 2, 3 years away from like watching kids movies over and over and over.
right? I'm so excited to watch like The Lion King and the original, and like Jungle Book and some of these ones that I'm excited to see the interpretation of those films through their eyes because I loved going to the movies as a kid, and it's I hope to give my kid whether cinemas are big or not in 5 years, I'm gonna give them cinema. You know, I'm gonna take them to the movies. Um, Wait, what are some of your favorites? I'd just be curious. Can't be completely one sided. I got to hear some
I'm
of your.
really. It's funny. I would normally say, "Oh, I'll do it after we're done recording," but whatever. I'm being less precious nowadays. Life is short. Uh, it really dates me because my top three kind of come from my college era, early 20s ish. But I have a hard time not just naming 2001, The Graduate in Brazil. Actually, Brazil 2001 Graduate.
Yeah.
For me, Brazil is like the most special movie ever made.
Hmm.
But then No Country for I'm sorry, okay. There Will Be Blood and actually Children of Men. I keep saying to myself, I've got to put Children of Men in that top three, and I can't figure out if it's 2001 I take out. Do I take out the grad? How do I take out the Graduate? The Graduate's perfect. Although Dustin Hoffman kind of proved to be a creep, I guess.
Yeah, but Graduate's still pretty perfect.
I
Um,
mean, it's just perfect filmmaking. So
I don't think we'd have a Wes Anderson if The Graduate never, you know what I mean, came out. I feel like there's a direct like what he did comes from this like the way the tone that film hit. Um,
by the way, I watched Isle of Dogs about 20 times with the kid. I think that movie's unbelievable. I think it might be my favorite Wes Anderson, but amusingly, I haven't shown the kid The Graduate. She's old enough now, but she really despises sex scenes if I'm in the room. I think it checks out. In horror movies, when people start making out, she's like, "This." I'm like, "Does it really bother you?" She's like, "No, it only bothers me that you're here." But it is great. It's funny because children's cinema is actually really good. And like films, besides all the Pixar stuff, honestly, stuff like Moana, but then also, oh man, there's gonna so many films you're gonna get to show your son, like Box Trolls, a lot
I
of
don't even.
stop motion animation. Kids like you start, you start. I end up on I keep using the term soapbox, but like I end up on a soapbox going like, you know. Moana should not have been nominated for Best Animated Feature. It should have been nominated for Best Feature Film. It was better than the live action shit that year. And
Yeah,
and more so
that's
for other films. Kids cinema is so good. And look up Shaun the Sheep. I don't know if you're says it's
yeah.
it's it's by the
Hopefully next.
Aardman Studio guys. It's by the Chicken Run
Oh
Wallace
yeah,
and Gromit team.
yeah.
And they
Cool.
pulled from Wallace and Gromit. There was this little sheep called Sean, and like it's the best show to watch with a kid. Oh my god, it was anytime when she was 5, anytime our daughter was crying, all I had to do was like put on Sean the sheep, and she would like, okay, I'm in a good mood now. Like yeah, those tears were fake as fuck, dude. You little liar, you weren't upset. Anyway, all right, so I
Yeah,
answered it.
yeah, man. Cool talking movies. Love, man. I could three was hard, and then one. It's coming up with
3 is hard. By the way, you
one.
didn't. Lots of people are like, "Can I name 5?" And I'm like, "Sure." I don't have a whistle. I'm not going to like call a foul on you.
Um, but it is cool as a festival director now, like, and being involved in the programming, like how you do get to see a lot of other stuff through that and get inspired in that way. And I mean, that's stuff that sometimes never makes it to, you know, the streamers. And Um, if it
It
does
is
not,
really sobering to see. We had at least 4 features at Sherman Oaks last December that I would put up against anything that's nominated for an Oscar. I'm kind of serious. Like they're just so well done, and in no way do they feel affected by their lower budget. Like it's just so good, and drives me nuts that people won't see them. I mean, I'm hoping people will see them. I'm hoping one of them breaks through.
should we name drop one of each of our favorite like festival movies? Maybe should we?
Yeah, sure. Of all time, or just in the last year? Well, you for what was well?
I'm
Yeah, go ahead.
all
Name
one
name
year
drop
in.
name drop name drop a favorite because it's not your only favorite from Anchorage. But what was the standout feature at Anchorage or short?
Feature was Bob Trevino Likes It, which it also won South by Southwest, and it comes out in March. It's just it's with John Leguizamo and Barbie Fiera from Euphoria. It's so good, so emotional, and so like I don't know, like the directing is like just really confident, doesn't overdo it, but has its own style, and it's the best John Leguizamo performance I've ever seen, and it's really good because it doesn't feel like an indie very much, but that was great, and it comes out in March. I think we were one of the last stops for them, but it was awesome to have it.
Excellent.
And
Well, I'm just gonna. I should just go. A film named Downtown, 2 words, was
okay,
our Best in Fest feature in December at Sherman Oaks, and everybody. There are people on my jury who are like, I don't like any Tarantino films. I don't like films about criminals. This is a this is a film about a young, it takes place in downtown LA. They shot it on a shoestring, but it looks fantastic, and it's just nonstop entertainment, action, thoughtfulness, and it's just honestly this young man kind of outdid Tarantino in his own way. Like it's got a little more heart, I think, but it's just a great movie, and I am crossing my fingers for it. And holy shit, I know the director of Bob Trevino Likes It.
Tracy Lehman,
Tracy Lehman.
yeah,
Her film Ghosted
okay,
won
yeah,
awards at Sherman Oaks a while back. She is the nicest person. Oh my god,
yeah,
I'm so happy
she's
for
the
her.
nicest person, yeah,
And
yeah.
now I'm mad at her for not submitting it to us, but maybe it wasn't her decision. Maybe
She's it's being distributed by Roadside Attractions, and
right. So that's who chose Anchorage over us. Oh, I'm so happy for her. She's so talented. I'm
yeah,
glad I looked. Wow.
yeah, and just a good like she did 2 short films, and then she did a feature, and she's it's I think it's nice to see that and be reminded that like indie progression still exists in some way. So I'd say like from Film Invasion screening to Dancing with Film screening to running a festival this year, like I definitely had multiple moments of being like re-inspired with film festivals and filmmaking. So 2024 gave me a bit of that. So I'm happy for that.
That's excellent. That's, well, I'm going to let it end there. That's a wonderful statement. All right. I will wrap us up. You just got to hear Adam talk about that's so good. That's so great that inspiration from work and from other things. And then yeah, actually running a festival is very inspiring. I'm glad it's inspiring you. For me, it just inspires me to watch what the next generation's doing. And honestly, I shouldn't say this, but I think what makes me a really pleasant festival runner is that for me, it's all in the past. I just see my role as older than middle-aged person who just wants to support the next generation. I don't have. It's funny because sometimes I even had a friend I met through the festival say, "Hey, we're going to do an anthology of shorts. You want to direct one?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. I don't want to create anything. I just want to support the people who are still creating, and I'm just there for y'all." But I had no stories to tell. I told a couple when I was young. End of story. I moved on. I'm happy. I got to leave it to the Tracy Lehmans and the Adam Linkenhelts of the world. It's your turn now. I'm nearly a grandpa. All right. So anyway, way too long of an outro. All right. Adam's social media will be a clickable link in the show notes, as well as everything I'm about to list, which is thank you for listening to the Discover Indie Film Podcast. Like and subscribe. Be nice. Even write a review. Say it's the best podcast you ever heard. I'm just kidding. And if you want to learn more about this podcast or a TV series that was born from it, just go to discoverindiefilm.com. On social media, it's always at DIFwins. Adam and I talked about a bunch of festivals. In fact, we should put a link to Anchorage Film Festival, as well as to Film Invasion Los Angeles, where you have played twice, and Sherman Oaks Film Festival, where you have played once. So people can learn about Film Invasion Los Angeles if they go to filminvasionla.com, and it's at Film Invasion LA on social media. You can learn about the Sherman Oaks Film Festival if you go to shermanoaksff.com, and it's at Sherman Oaks FF on social media. Check out indiechannel.tv if you want to see something cool. And then
go to the
AnchorageFilmFestival.org.
Go to AnchorageFilmFestival.org and check us out. Our submissions are not open yet, but we're going to have a wild 25th year for sure.
That's sweet. 25th year of AnchorageFilmFestival.org and 10th year for Film Invasion Los Angeles and Sherman Oaks Film Festival. And I'll add, fingers crossed, I've always talked to other people, always talked to me about starting another Film Invasion, and I always encourage it if they'll do it the right way. Dude almost pulled off a London, Film Invasion London. There was almost a Film Invasion San Francisco, it was actually going to be Oakland. I should never diss Oakland. Oakland! But I actually think there might be a Film Invasion Peru coming in this year. International.
That's cool.
As well as Tempe, Arizona. Oh, I just mentioned Tempe. Actually had a meeting last year with the Board of Tourism of Tempe. And they want a Film Invasion Tempe, so we'll see if it happens. But they want to do it right. Nice downtown event. So anyway.
Thank you so
Adam.
much, Jeff. Thank you. This was awesome.
Thank you. And now I'm going to hit stop and then tell you something funny. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Check out and support indie film.